I'll get this. I need like a third hand. I think I've just come to that conclusion that I need a third hand to make sure that everything is what it is, so you can see me off the top instead of a blue screen. John, here you there. Thanks for dropping by, as you always do. I've never been a master of technology. Just ask Jason or Jarrett or Nick or Maddie, Sophia, Drew, Vanessa, Gabe. Just ask them off the top. That's why they can do it faster. They can do it better. I defer. Even if I win the toss, I defer. It's theirs. Tuesday Thoughts here, SDH AM, kind of split up. Hour number one is where we talk to our experts about stuff, official term. We're going to get into that in a bit. Hour number two is all your highlights, all your review, all your preview, all your stories, all your AM news. And there is actually a lot going on. I've been kind of keeping track. And so let me see if I can put it out of the shade there. There we go. So there's plenty to talk about. Everything involving Atlanta United, Botafogo, Alan Velasco, resignations, press conferences coming up today of an indeterminate length because it's Marcelo Bielsa, and God knows how long that's going to take. News out of Columbus on a coming and a going. You've got stories involving the goals that happened yesterday, and then we're going to get you ready for everything that's going on. So, yeah, we might be going long. Today is the MD-1s down at the Atlanta Stadium. I was about to say Mercedes-Benz. I don't know if I can do that in this 7-week period without getting some kind of a lightning strike. And we'll be down there for those this afternoon. England is practicing this morning at Swope Park in Kansas City, and then they are flying in for their press conference tonight. And DR Congo is practicing this afternoon at Kennesaw State, and they have their MD-1 press conference at about 3:30. Speaking of Kennesaw State, this is where we go to one of our experts, batting leadoff, brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee, blackpitchcoffee.com. Opening kickoff, start your day with the most important stories of the game. Right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee, part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala, heavy body, notes of walnut and semi-sweet chocolate, rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff, powered by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. And for going to Kennesaw State and finding out about Kennesaw State, we go to Kennesaw State. Strange how that works. We catch up with the man with the plan, the guy that knows anything and everything involving innovation and technology on campus. It is Professor Chad Goebert. Coach, thanks for dropping by on the morning show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I definitely don't know anything and everything. I know my things very well, but there's so much going on. I can't even keep track of it, honestly. There's so much going on at Kennesaw State. It's become a huge university with some great things happening. And so much going on in the world of sport and even just the World Cup that it's hard to keep track of, honestly.
Yeah, so this is why we give a hooty-hoo to you this morning. Assistant Professor, Sport Management when it comes to sports innovation and technology. And once again, now that we're in the group stage, we're out of the group stage and we're in the knockouts. It shows you where my days, they just blend together. Since we're here in the knockouts, we've had the chance to kind of digest to the halfway point, a lot of stuff that's going on. And when you look at really just, I think technology is we just kind of sit there and we look at the action going on in front of us. And we don't necessarily, take time to think about, hey, that ball has a chip inside of it, to sit there and let everybody know if it goes all the way out or if it goes over a line or something like that. Or, when it comes to VR and coaching and statistics and since there are statistical websites that I track, and I got to ask you about adding new statistics to here. Tech and innovation. What have you seen in the group stage so far that kind of has translated to your classes and your teachings up there at Kennesaw State?
Yeah, so we always try to pay attention to what's going on, especially in information and media and technology. And we have a technology and innovation class in the sport management department where we talk about a lot of these things, and also sports information and media. And there's things happening around the entire broadcast, just from the start of the event, like you said, with the ball, the technology in the ball. They can even tell if someone got a hand on it or someone got a head on it or someone just kind of deflected it just a little bit because of the technology they have in the ball. All the way down to volumetric capture, which is the scanning of players. So when they do the offsides ruling, it's unique to that player's body type and how that player would be. And we just saw an offside earlier in the tournament where it was like offside by a toe. And those kind of things. So it's down to millimeters now. And there's been technology like that around. And tennis and other sports like Hawkeye technology that does those kind of tracking for a long time. So there's so many things to watch and keep track of. And then the way statistics have gone, and soccer has really embraced next generation statistics. It's been quite a bit to pay attention to in this World Cup. I think it's probably the most technologically advanced World Cup from the time you step foot at the venue, if you go there, to the time you leave, or from the time you turn on your TV and start watching. You're getting like AR depictions of replays and things like that. So it really is like from start to finish, a tech infused World Cup for sure.
How much note taking are you taking when you're watching broadcasts? Sit there and go, yeah, we taught this. We need to teach that. Ooh, I like that as an idea for the lesson plan. How much of this is a learning experience for you?
Oh, it's constant. I tell my students that even in my classes, students will bring up something that I'm unaware of, that they're like, hey, this is happening, or this was talked about on this podcast. You just can't keep track of it all as an individual. And that's what I really like about the technology and innovation class I teach, is that it changes semester to semester. We don't have a textbook because by nature, that class changes all the time, and a textbook will be outdated the next semester. So we have a curriculum, but we don't have a textbook, and it changes. I mean, we were teaching a few years ago. We were talking about digital assets and different things like that, which have kind of fallen by the wayside recently. And so we don't teach about that anymore. We've moved on to other things, and AI obviously has taken a bigger portion of the class. And so it changes as we go. And so there's going to be obviously a heavy emphasis on some of the things we've seen here, because why not teach and learn about the things that are actually happening in the industry, because that's where my students are going, right? And so we don't want to teach about things that we will teach about the history and how things have happened, but we want to be forward facing, thinking about what's going to happen.
I was going to say, with the tournament showing you all these different things on the field, off the field, with the ball itself, how nimble do you have to be with lesson plans, even in a current semester? You know, if you were doing summer school, how nimble would you have to be to sit there and say, yeah, okay, student brings this topic up, yeah, we need to just kind of jam this into what we're talking about here? How nimble are you?
I think that's the best thing about teaching in sport, a sport focused program like our sport management department, is that it is ever changing, and we have no lack of content. And so that's the best thing / one of the biggest challenges. We have to be really nimble. We have to take the things we've been teaching and apply them to current day things, and also be willing to say, I have professionals come and speak in my class from the technology industry. I have a friend named Andy Etches who runs a company called Rezzle, which is virtual reality soccer training. And he comes and speaks in my class. And before he talks, I tell my students, if he says anything that contradicts what I've said about this topic, we're going to go with him. And I'm going to change my stuff, because he's in the industry. He's working on the front things. And then also a friend named Daniela Burleson, who works for Atlanta United in sports information and media. And I'm like, if she says anything that contradicts what I say about sports information, we'll change what I say, because these are the people on the ground doing the thing. And I think it's really important to be nimble, like you said, and to be flexible with, like, hey, things are changing. It's not going to always be the same. And what's going to prepare our students for the future, not just for right now.
So how much of your class leading into the World Cup was pregame, and you're seeing things that you were talking about the last time a particular class was taught? You sit there and it's like, okay, yeah, we're talking about this, and now you're seeing it in application. How much of your teaching last time around before the tournament was pregame to stuff that you're looking at now?
Quite a bit. In my technology and innovation class that I just finished teaching this spring leading into the World Cup, was pretty heavily loaded, talking about World Cup technology, talking about soccer, which is interesting, because soccer growing up was not like my main focus or my favorite thing, but my students would probably think it is, because we talked about it so much, because I think it's pertinent for them being in the Atlanta area. This is becoming soccer central for the United States. And so why not talk about those things? But we had statistics designed around soccer, and we had conversations around the VAR review and Hawkeye technology and the ball tracking technology and things like that. We had quite a few discussions around that. And I had my students go in and break it down and tell me what they thought would be impactful, what they thought wouldn't be impactful, what's going to stay, what's going to go. And then even how they trial these things out. They don't just try it for the first time at the World Cup. You know, they find the lower leagues and they trial these technologies. And so, like, by the time it is debuted in the World Cup, even the technology in the ball or the VAR assistant things, these things have been trialed quite a few times on lower level soccer. And so they know what they're doing.
You mentioned stats and interpretation, and there are times pretty much on Mondays, where when I'm reviewing matches and things like that, specifically in an Atlanta United sphere, I'll sit there and I'll talk about percentages and XG and XGOT and the alphabet soup that's attached. When it comes to your classes, have there been any stats that have been created that you're now keeping an eye on? I guess in new stats, we have the Old Testament and the New Testament. So when it comes to New Testament stats, what has it been like in your class? Have you guys come up with stuff that I need to pay attention to? This is where I'm asking you, the instructor, to help me out as a member of the media here. What stats do I need to pay attention to that you've been uncovering in your classes?
Yeah, so it's interesting because there's and you're probably familiar with them. There's a company called Opta Stats Perform, who brings so many stats to soccer, where traditionally soccer has been goals assists. It's to the lay fan has been a goals assist sport. You go into my daughters all play soccer. We walk into a grocery store. The very first thing somebody says after a game, if they're wearing a jersey, is they ask them two questions: Did you win? Did you score? That's the two questions. And one of my daughter plays center back. She'll never even cross the half line. So like she's never going to score. It's like that's a weird question, but I understand what people are doing. But the thing is now Opta and all these other professional leagues that have embraced Opta, like Bundesliga and La Liga and Premier League, have a bunch of stats that show the value of players who traditionally would not be noticed because they're not scoring the goals. And so we had a player impact rating score that took a bunch of Opta stats, combined them, and then divided them by their time on the field and things like that, and gave an overall impact score. And some of the highest players were defenders, not guys who are scoring goals or getting assists, because different things are weighted differently based on the impact of a game. And then there's one of my students did a pressure absorption rate, which was players playing the ball under pressure. And so like they can actually pull data from Stats Perform, StatCast, StatMuse about like players playing the ball under pressure. And they're pretty complicated formulas, which is nice because I'm not asking my students to be statisticians. We actually require them to use an AI program for this assignment. We say, hey, you come up with the idea for the stat. You come up with the stat you want to do, and then ask it to give you the formula. I mean, I'm not going to, like, it's not a stats class. It's not an advanced stats class. But they come up with these really intricate formulas, and you're like, oh, wow, maybe that wasn't even possible a few years ago. And so things like that, even like, keeping track of one of the things I like about advanced stats is even keeping track of passing accuracy and things like that. And most people wouldn't know the top passing accuracy player in this year's World Cup is a 19-year-old Spanish defender, Pau Cubarsí, who's completing like 98% of his passes, which is like most people historically would not have seen. They're not getting pressured a lot at the goal, so he's not making crazy saves defensively, but he's controlling the game with his passing. And so like, it's been nice to see soccer go on this stats revolution where there's those players on the pitch that can be recognized for their value at their positions relative to value at other positions, not just goals and assists.
Do you talk to your daughter, the center back, about folks like Cubarsí? And it's like, hey, in the class I'm teaching, hey, we're showing this. So, just because somebody asks you wins, loss, and score, you can sit there, give them this data book that's about 3 inches thick, and then that way, when she goes to the grocery store, this is what I've been doing, kind of a thing. Do you talk to her about center backs and with the math that you guys do?
We talk about all different positions and positional value. And the funny thing is she actually brought that stat to me because she's paying attention to those things too, and they're paying attention to those things. And so she brought it to me, and I was like, I looked it up. I'm like, well, that's crazy. And just the way you play different positions. And I think that's where the stats have helped, because it makes it encourages people to watch people off the ball and do different things, like player movement and where they get prepared. And it encourages people to go, oh, okay, that's how you play that position. It's not just everybody, elementary school soccer where everybody just gets in a group and chases the ball. It's like, no, it's important to hold your form here. It's important to hold your shape here. And this is why. And it's important to be scanning. And here's why. And these stats will reward a lot of that stuff because pass completion percentage is a big awareness stat, right? You have to know where you're going to go with the ball and what you're going to do with it. And so for sure, we're having those conversations in my house, but I know those conversations are happening in a lot of other places. That's why with my students, when I do that assignment at Kennesaw State, it's really interesting because they'll come up with stats I never even thought of. And I'm like, oh, they're watching this game completely differently than I am, which is good. Like, and it's normal. So I get to see a lot of different perspectives on sports that I had not thought of myself.
Okay, so in addition to something like pressure absorption rate, which is something that I hadn't thought of, what others have they created that I now need to keep an eye on and figure out a way to tap into your statistical database so I can keep an eye on?
Yeah, I really like the player impact rating score. So the player impact rating score, it's a field player impact rating score. It doesn't do a good job with goalies, but goalies have their own thing. And it gives different values to different actions. So like a cleared ball defensively, a cleared ball is worth like 0.6 points in this valuation because it's an action that saves under pressure, but it doesn't retain possession. Whereas a block for a defender is worth 2 points, so almost 3 times as much because it's a block only occurs when it's an attacking action that immediately threatens the goal. And so those are very rare. And then you have goals and assists that are valued much higher because those are the ways you score. But there's a litany of about 10 different statistics, and each of them have their own point value from 0.4 all the way up to, I think it was 6 points for a goal because goals are rare to come by. And it then applies that rating to players across the field. And routinely, it's not just the goal scorers who are at the top of the list. You find defenders up there routinely because they're doing things like clears and tackles and blocks and different things like that. And they each have a different point value. And it was interesting to watch the iteration of that happen as they were like, well, how often do these occur? How rare are these things? And they got more point values for being more rare. How impactful are they? And to watch that happen, and we can definitely share that formula with you at some point too. I definitely have it. But it's interesting to see because then it gives a number to what the players have done on the field. And it was adjusted for level of play because in the youth level, there's a lot more goals. Right. So the goals are less valuable in the youth level because you'll have a game where there's 6 goals scored by one team, whereas on the professional level, goals are higher valued. So they even have it tiered for the different levels of sports. So I think that's a very interesting one because it tried to give a holistic view of player value relative to what they do on the field.
Any clue off the top of your head? You mentioned Kubarsi, and see now that you've opened this door with field player impact ratings, I would imagine that the Cabo Verdean backline probably rated very high. Probably the DR Congo backline rated very high. Any clue what your top 10 in the field player impact rating? Any clue what your head?
I don't have a clue off the top of my head. We haven't run it yet for the World Cup. I know. The interesting thing is your instincts are probably dead on because it very much shows you that one of the things I like about player impact rating is it shows you the flow of game. And so a team that has not as much possession, that's defending a lot, their defenders' player impact scores get pretty high because they get a lot of different activities that are logged, a lot of different things that are logged from clearances and blocks and tackles and all those kind of things. And so like you'll see in the scores, you're like, oh man, the player impact rating score for this game was really high for the defenders. Well, that means that they were probably defending quite a bit. And then you'll see like, oh, this one's super heavily weighted to the offensive players. That means that they were kind of attacking the whole time. And so you can actually see flow of game in the scores. They tend to even out over a longer period of time as you play more equal competition. You win some, you lose some. But you can definitely see on a per game basis, like the flow of game because that ball was down at this end the entire time.
Okay, then what about, since you mentioned goalies, you mentioned keepers. What about keeper statistics? Do they what categories are you guys looking at there or creating when it comes to their impact? Because yesterday, when it came to the PK shootouts, it was craziness a bunch of different ways. Are you monitoring any statistics when it comes to goalkeepers at all?
Yeah, the interesting thing about the shootouts is like some of the goalkeeper actions were some of the best saves were non-saves. I mean, it was misses or posts or those kind of things. Even keepers diving the complete wrong way. Which I mean, who would want to be a keeper in that situation? I told my girls I have 3 daughters when they started playing soccer. I'm like, one rule: if the coach is like, hey, anybody ever played goalkeeper or want to try goalkeeper practice? I'm like, say no, because then you'll end up in the goal and I won't be able to handle it. Because it's just a lot back there. So I have a lot of respect for them. So they keep track of a lot of different things to try to reward keepers, especially since it's different than field players. So it's a different thing. There's like, they give punches, catches, because, punches are kind of like clearances where they don't retain possession, but they are obviously a good save action. clean sheets get rewarded highly, penalties faced. Even there's a stat called pickups, which are like shots that are not threatening the goal, but the keeper comes out, picks it up. And it's just kind of trying to keep track of the amount of action the keeper takes or initiates. And then there's crosses claimed, where there's a cross that comes in and the keeper comes out and makes a play on the ball, or crosses not claimed where the keeper stays home. And they try to evaluate them on those things. I haven't personally myself come up with a rating system for those things, but those are things that Opta Stats is keeping track of. Again, it's such an interesting thing, because to me, soccer for a long time was a two stat sport. And now, even for individual positions like a keeper, they have like 10 different stats that they keep track of. And it allows for a much better idea of like who does what and how it impacts the game.
And I feel like I should now just go ahead and give your classes a homework assignment, so we can be kept up to date with everything as we've gone on here in the World Cup. You see, you open like 19 different doors for me here, and it's like the notes that I was taking. I took notes while you were talking, and literally it's like volumetric capture and next gen stats and the player impact ratings. So I took like 19 different notes while we were talking here. For those that are taking classes at Kennesaw State, and they want to learn about everything that you're doing up there in sports innovation and technology, how can someone take your classes? What classes are we talking about? How can they enroll, or how can we look from afar and just get smart when it comes to everything that your students are creating here?
Yeah, so my classes, I teach sport technology and innovation every semester now. When I actually came to Kennesaw State, it's a class that I created and started. And we have some really good people on the faculty that can also teach that class. We're really lucky with our sport management faculty, a lot of very future-facing, technology-driven people on our faculty. And so we've actually brought that into our core curriculum. They actually think it's so important, which is really important for our core curriculum for sport management. And so that class in sports information and media, I also think is by nature pretty technology focused, because that's what you're doing. And so how much technology is involved and how much is changing. Even the viewer experience, we might already be there, but we're not far from choose your own adventure. As far as like, you watch a game, I'm going to choose my announcers, I'm going to choose my broadcast angle, I'm going to choose and that was insane to think about just a few years ago. And so watching even that change technologically. So those classes are every semester, and we try to talk about these. That's why I have industry professionals come in. That's why we try to talk about these things. And I'll even, when Daniela comes in, or when Andy comes in and talks, I'll even ask them about assignments. I'm like, is there an assignment that would make sense, that would help you all out, but also would make sense of like things you're trying to measure, things you're trying to keep track of? Because I have a really unique opportunity to work with people between the ages of basically 18 and 25, which is an interesting demographic for sports, as you know, because they're trying to capture that demographic to make them into sport fans. And so I have a captive audience with them that I get to talk and hear their ideas, and I'll do assignments, and they'll bring stuff up I've never heard about. And it's my job to know these things. And so it's great for me, because I get to learn about a lot of extra things too, because I'm only one person, and they bring a various experiences. And also they're tuned into things and channels that I'm not, by age and, experience level, not even paying attention to. And they're like, oh, there's this. I'm like, oh, well, I better learn about that. Mm-hmm. And so it's good. And those classes are great. And those classes are kind of like living, breathing classes that change semester to semester, as I think they kind of all should, because we're not stagnant, and these students are not on the job market right now. They're going into the job market in the future. What are those jobs that social media? That's Daniela Burleson with Atlanta United, when she comes in and talks, it was one of the most impactful things, because she'll say she's worked in social media for multiple professional teams, but when she came out of college, it wasn't a job. It was literally interns running accounts, which is, everybody jokes about it now, but it literally was the thing, and it wasn't a job. And so what are those things in the future for my students that are not a job right now that will be a job, and the technology is going to make sense? So we try to focus on those things too.
Very, very cool. Chad Goebert, part of the Kennesaw State milieu, sports innovation and technology, assistant professor, sport management. Thanks for coming by this morning and getting me smart and making me now want to have every single possible statistic that you guys put together in one place where I can stare at it. And then the O would not stand for Opta necessarily. It would stand for OWL. Thanks, as always, for dropping by and educating me. And I need your stats on a sheet, man. I need to find out what player impact ratings looking like. I can't thank you enough for dropping by.
Yeah, we'll be in touch for sure. I'll keep you updated on all those things. Thanks for having me. Anytime.
be good. There goes Chad. He's going to get properly hydrated with his daughters that all play soccer. And that was cool. See, because now I got to find out about player impact ratings, pressure absorption rate, especially in PKs, passing accuracy, volumetric capture, all these things. VR soccer training, all these new stats have been designed and everything that the balls can figure out where they're going and what they're doing. Okay, bottom of the hour. And we're catching up with Kacey D a little early because she is in high demand. The one thing that I forgot to do coming into your appearance this week, I forgot to pull the segment from CBS Saturday Morning where you were in New York City and you were doing the car wash. You were going to games, you were doing media, you were all over all the networks. Hopefully someone was there to make sure that your schedule was straight. You were all over the place this past weekend.
Major League Soccer took care of me. They escorted me around, made sure I didn't go to the wrong place. So they were great when I was in New York. It's a little bit of personal trip, added on some media, which was fun, and had a great time.
And busting out the denim. See, now you're busting out the denim jersey. I see now.
Oh, a day early, but I got it.
I love that look. I love the denim because when it came out in '94, I got the whole thing. I got the jacket, I got the jersey, I got the whole line of the '94 clothing. And people seem to just, for whatever reason, they don't dig that jersey that you're wearing this morning. I thought it was one of the coolest things ever.
I absolutely love it. It was actually hilarious. When I got to New York, I knew I was going to go watch the USA game out with Heather. And we both get ready to come down. And we're both in our jerseys. And we're wearing the same exact jersey. So I guess the ex-players like it. We like the throwback. So that's what we went with.
And considering that I am a throwback and a retro, I'm the living example of retro. So yeah, I'm like the host, the TV host in black and white television. That would be me. Sorry, I tried to get a joke in before you were properly hydrating because I didn't want to spit take on camera unless you really wanted to do that.
That would make for some good video, but
it would, and it would go viral, and we'd put it on social, and then you would sit there and it's like, yeah, I did that, and you're sitting there going, yeah, I'm charging them to fix my computer now too, considering that
exactly
spit on the lens. Yesterday, when it came to, now that we are in the knockouts, I guess we can go back to Canada and start things out because Canada got to start things when it came to the knockouts. Canada gets a win, big win for them. You figured that South Africa was going to kind of turn this into a grinder, especially in the last 15 minutes. But then you end up with a moment from Stephen A. Eustachio, and from just outside the top of the box, Canada advances to the round of 16. And I thought that this was something cool that Jesse Marsh said. And I have friends in Canada, and they're going to like me for this. When Jesse talked to them after the match and referred to them as heroes, I thought that was incredibly appropriate because, and we got into this discussion yesterday, it's like, okay, now that Canada's on this run, it's what you do with it after you're done. There's a lot of responsibility now that is attached, but you've done something now that you've never done before. And you're going to have a lot of folks looking up to you and want to get into the sport. So it was a big moment for Canada yesterday, and now there's added responsibility off the field going forward.
Huge moment for Canada, and was really happy to see their success and how much it's just grown in the past years. I do believe that it was incredibly appropriate for him to say that at that moment. And there's those moments where you feel like it's big for your country. And I can only imagine what that felt like for them as the players, the staff, the entire country watching. I also think it's really important for soccer in this part of the world to have Canada do well, Mexico do well, the United States do well. It's not just the United States hosting this World Cup. Yeah. It's the three of us. And being in this part of the world and continuing to grow the game is important. And we all know that winning matters in those moments. And so the further we can go, I think the better it is.
Yeah, and you've got a professional men's league in the CPL that is still trying to find its footing. Of course, Major League Soccer is 30 years old. And so that by comparison to what's going on overseas in Europe, they're still a little kid. And the CPL is a handful of years old. They're still trying to find their footing. the women's game finally with the Northern Super League, in its second year. So this is why I was talking about added responsibility, because of all of this pressure that it's good pressure that you're putting on yourself to make sure that the game continues to grow, both on the women's side professionally, even though there have been more successes internationally, and then the inverse, which is now happening on the men's side.
The entire ecosystem growing is critical. And what I mean by that is it not only helps in Canada and for young players to see that there's a pathway in their own country, it also keeps all of us honest in this area as well. The MLS continuing to grow, the United States national teams needing to be better and better when the countries around them are getting better and growing. So there's a positive effect all around. Rivalries are good. And I think competition is good. And so seeing those types of things continue to get better will only make the entire area better.
Yesterday, matches took a little longer than normal on a couple of fronts. And we're going to have those highlights coming up in hour number 2. When it came to shootouts, when you were playing, when coach came to you, were you one that would volunteer to the coaches like, yeah, I'm in, or would you wait to be asked? How were you when it came to?
What do you think? What would you guess?
Oh, I figured you want to jump into the coach's face, and it's like, yeah, put me in the lineup. I'm gassed up, ready to go.
I always took penalty kicks, and I was usually the last penalty kick taker. So I loved them. Absolutely loved them.
Okay, so that doesn't surprise me one bit. So you're there in the 5th. You're waiting, and you're probably cursing the planet if somebody missed, 2 folks in front of you miss because you don't get your opportunity.
That's true.
Go if you could. I guess this is where you kind of put your player/coach hat on when it comes to PKs. When you were a coach and trying to figure out PKs, were you looking at folks in the eye? Were you looking at folks who were backing off, engaging who, or did you kind of have an idea going into your matches who you were going to pick?
I picked my spot and I hit it there. That was my entire routine. I did not play any games. I did not make eye contact. I was very routine based when it came to my penalty kick. Mm-hmm. I always felt that what my responsibility was, besides scoring, was calming my nerves as much as possible. So the way I knew I could do that was to go back to my preparation and to go to my technique and to be able to trust in that piece. And so I always went pretty much the massive amount of time to one side. Mm-hmm. I remember some coaches at one point saying, you've got to switch it up once or twice just to have the goalkeeper guess. And mind you, this is 15 years ago or more that this was happening. So not all the statistics were there, and things had changed a little bit. But I still go back to the fact that if you pick your spot, you're 12 yards out, more likely than not, if you hit it well, you should score.
We saw yesterday a couple of pull hooks from right-handed. I'm going to say right-handed shooters, but right-footed shooters. I'm thinking hockey. So you had a couple of right-footed shooters pull hook to the near post, or to the as we're watching the post to the left, and when you have something like that happen, I mean, you're processing about 19 different things in your head, but it also looks like when you're planting, it's like the left foot kind of plants and then it goes into the ground at almost like a 45-degree angle, and that causes some stuff. When you were looking at the mechanics yesterday of some of the PKs, what was running through your mind about those guys going through PKs?
I haven't reviewed them, but the thing that sticks out to me the most is especially some of the short run-ups that were pulled wide, because you're really relying more on the swing of your leg rather than your body taking you through the ball. And so there is still a little bit of that mind game of I'm going to look like I'm opening up and then I'm going to come across it. And if you hit it at an angle that's not right, you're going to pull it. And that's where those nerves come in, and your mechanics can be off just a little bit. So there's fine margins there where your plant foot goes, where you make impact with the ball. Those short run-ups always make me nervous because you're generating power only through a swing of the leg rather than your entire body. And I think that happened a couple times we saw.
So then along those lines, when you see a player airmail it, and it's not a pull hook, it's not off the post, hit the post, whatever, but it goes up and over the crossbar. Mm-hmm. Is it as simple as saying, okay, the body was not in a straight line, they were leaning back, and the contact was already being made, and you're swinging through already, and you're already on an upswing as that ball is climbing, and it has no choice but to go over the crossbar?
A huge portion of it is just the leaning back on the ball while you're trying to generate power. I have a time in my career where I had to take 2 penalties in a game, one in game, one in a penalty shootout. And I scored in game.
Mhm.
We go to the penalty shootout. I'm the 5th kicker, and I have to score for us to continue on to sudden death. We were down a penalty in the last phase. And I wanted to go to the same spot. But of course, what's going on in your head is, do they think I'm going to the same spot? Do they think I'm going to switch it up? All this is kind of going in your head, and I'm sure it's going in the goalkeeper's head as well. So inevitably, I think I need to get more power on this, because if the goalkeeper guesses correctly, I need more power to get by her quicker. So long story short, I did make it, but it sailed up on me. Mm-hmm. Because I was trying to get power, and so I came through it harder. I didn't have as good of technique, and she got a finger to it. Thank goodness I had power, but it went really high, and it didn't go high on purpose. That was not my goal, was to go high. So my point is that when you're a little bit nervous, or you switch it up, or you kind of go for power sometimes, but still placement, your body can mess you up a little bit and start to sail that ball.
How is your bracket, by the way?
I kind of am going game by game. I haven't done like a full thing by any means, but I yesterday, in all transparency, I predicted a tie with Netherlands-Morocco, but I thought Morocco would go through. Mm-hmm. I thought Japan was going to give Brazil everything, and Brazil went through. And so Morocco proved me wrong. They beat the Netherlands. And then what was the middle game? Oh, no, no one predicted Paraguay. Come on.
Yeah, really?
Definitely didn't see that. I wasn't sold on Germany. I saw their send-off game for the US. I went to the Ecuador-Germany game. So I wasn't sold on them, but I definitely thought they would win this first one.
All right. So is it something so let's go back and look at Germany for a second. You weren't sold on them with the US. They play Sebastian Becasese and Ecuador, and it looked like Becasese wanted to press them out of the building at points, and it was forcing decisions that Germany didn't feel all that comfortable in. And then with Paraguay, you were shorthanded, and you didn't have Alderete at the back, and Alfaro had to do things a little differently, and it looked like Germany was having problems trying to figure out what Alfaro was doing with the new pieces he had to bring in out of necessity. When you saw Germany against Ecuador and when you saw them against the US, what sold you that they weren't at 100%?
I saw both of those games in person, and I was lucky enough to go to both. And what I thought about Germany was exactly what I saw yesterday. They look good. They look well oiled. They keep possession. They can score in critical moments, but they never looked scary to me. It just never looked like this is a team that is really scary to come up against. And when you feel that way, because they weren't necessarily going a lot of 1v1s, there weren't a lot of services into the penalty box all the time. When you're not putting teams on their heels, you leave yourself susceptible to a 0-0 game, a 1-1 game, whatever it may be. And those goals aren't coming dramatically. It always seemed like they were mistakes. And when I saw how they were pressed against Ecuador, and weren't able to play through the double pivot and get out very well, I just thought, I don't know about this team. And now, a little bit of a disclaimer. I'm judging them based on, can they win a World Cup? I'm not judging them based on, can they get out of group stage? I'm incredibly shocked that they lost yesterday. I did think they would go a little further, but with their history, I obviously judged them a little bit harsher. I never really thought they were a main contender in this World Cup.
Yeah, I didn't have them in the last game of it all. No. In some versions. I look, from the beginning, I've gone Argentina. I thought that Argentina
great choice.
Well, and I mean, part of that has to do with the fairy tale, is that I want, well, and I'm not going to tell him this in person, but I want a 39-year-old dude who is the greatest of all time. And look, and Team Ronaldo can come at me. I don't care. CR41, y'all can come at me all day long.
They can come after me too. It's okay.
twice on Tuesday, you can come at me and it's all good. I'm Team Messi, and I want the fairy tale ending. So that was why. And then I looked at the bracket and I was saying, yeah. But I'm Team Messi and have been the entire time. So for me, it wasn't necessarily Germany. It was, probably France at some point as a part of the breakdown as well. But yeah, I mean, Germany to me, and I think you hit it, when you're breaking it down for me, it's like they were kind of there. And
Mhm.
they didn't put the fear of anybody in me. It's like, yeah, okay, when you need the engine to turn over late, yeah, you're gonna, hit all your gears and that's fine.
Mhm.
But it didn't seem like it was that way for a full 90 minutes. And when Ecuador comes up and bites you, and you get the first set piece against the US, but then things kind of even out, you're kind of going, okay, you're not really you ain't scaring me here.
They're missing that like really scary attacking player. And not only because that player can produce, but because of how much attention they draw. So then Havertz is someone who can be underneath in the pockets and play well. And then a Havertz can float somewhere else where they're not paying attention to him and find him the ball. They're lacking that. And you're right. In the USA send-off game, besides that first goal, we dominated a lot of the possession. We looked scarier at times. And I just thought, I don't know, this isn't looking good for them. So
And you can use the we because you have you can do that. I can't sit there and use the collective we. I have to refer to it as a U.S. insert in letter NT here. You can go we
just in a
because
different way. Americans, come on.
true, but I mean, yeah, you're the one that has the jersey under glass. You can sit there and say, look, I've done the work. Look, and this is why. Here's my proof. I've done the work. It's under glass. Brazil yesterday. I had Japan as one of my dark horses, and they showed for 89 minutes why.
Yes.
Oh, and then Gabriel Martinelli. Man, it was a big day for Arsenal fans yesterday. Martinelli and Havertz scoring, but I'm still not sold on Brazil. I'm really not because of it's just I can't put my finger on it, but there's just a vibe there for me. I'm like, you have to wait till 90+5 to knock off Japan. Japan was pressing them out of the building, and they were having problems. It seems to be a factor here where the hydration break seems to be working for folks.
And then Japan sat back more. It was like they sat back so early and it stopped working. And then you give Brazil time on the ball. That was where I think Japan went wrong. I agree with you. I was talking with someone last week on one of the media things, and I said, I want to say Japan's going to win that game. I still think Brazil's going to pull it out, but like I might pull for Japan on this one. And I think if that tactical switch hadn't happened, I don't know what would have occurred in that game. The one thing that Brazil has going for them is an X factor player. I've talked about it a lot with the Vinny Jr., who I feel like Brazil could be playing like terrible and he could pull a goal out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And you need players like that as you go through the World Cup. And he didn't do it in this game. Obviously, Casemiro stepped up, but it wasn't convincing. I do feel like they're way more dangerous than like a Germany, though. Like they can figure out moments more. I never felt like that moment was coming with Germany, but with Brazil, I always am on the edge, like because I kind of wanted Japan to win a little bit, and I was like, oh no, what's happening? They're gonna pull something out, and they finally did.
Yeah, this Casemiro guy, he's a good economical pickup for Inter Miami. They didn't have to spend a whole lot of money to bring him in after the World Cup, so that's them using their financial wherewithal to make sure that they can bring in this budgeted player in Casemiro, where they're not having to break the bank. U.S. and Bosnia Herzegovina. I have focused on Edin Dzeko for Bosnia and Herzegovina. When you're 7 feet 2 inches tall and you can get inside the 6 and cause problems, I think that if it's going to be anything for Bosnia and Herzegovina, I think it's going to be set pieces and corners and causing these kinds of problems defensively for the U.S. In your cursory research, even though we're not there yet, what have you thought about this particular matchup heading into the midweek?
I'm obviously there in spirit already, so we can go there.
Yeah.
I agree with you that the corner kicks, the set pieces, those opportunities could be the great equalizer for a Bosnia and Herzegovina. Mm-hmm. They're going to be looking for those moments just with the player profiles they have, the services. One thing that the U.S. was able to do a lot in that Australia game was defend the box. And so I felt much better after watching that game with a lot of crosses coming in. man-for-man marking. I worry about the second chance opportunities that Bosnia and Herzegovina can provide. They've gotten some off of that with some great finishes, so that recycling of play after set pieces. The big question I have for Bosnia and Herzegovina is, how are they going to defend us? We've seen a 4-4-2 block. We've seen a back five. We've seen them sit in. We've also seen moments to press. And our back line at times has gotten caught trying to play out of the back. And so I do think there will be moments that they try to press. All that to say, I think the United States has more than enough to be able to win this game. But the first 15 minutes is huge. And how they come out, how we step in press, and not focusing too much on the opposition in this game. I think if they focus too much on the opposition, it'll take us out of our game plan and what's worked well so far.
And then you know this because you have a jersey under glass that you need to put up on a wall someplace. You know, how much pressure is there playing for your country, and how do you not let it overcome you in a game state?
There's a lot of pressure, and there's a lot of history, things like that, different types of legacy, depending if you're with the men, the women, whoever, whatever country you're with. And just knowing how important putting on the crest is, no one takes that for granted. So it's there. I do think one of the big factors is that when you're wearing your country's crest, you have to figure out a way to approach the game with the details of the game. Otherwise, it can be too overwhelming. So what are we looking to do? What are we focused on? And also leaning on your preparation. And that's where a staff comes in, a manager comes in, of reminding you, here's what we've done, here's why we're here, and taking all that extra pressure out. And instead of you seeing it as pressure, using like the crowd and the noise to galvanize you, because we have that advantage.
When you're in a national team setting and you're not playing and you're just kind of hanging out, like, you know, you and Heyo are hanging out, you know, watching soaps or whatever, you know, you're watching General Hospital and you're not out there in practice. Have there ever been times where you just kind of talk about the moment itself and, man, this is a lot of responsibility? Do you ever get into those deep conversations when you're far away from microphones and you're not at practice?
It can happen. I would say the closer it gets to a game, it doesn't happen at all, because you are trying to manage your mindset.
Yeah.
When you get to the highest level, the separation of players making teams, the separation of teams winning championships, winning World Cups is psychological. There's not much separating teams at the very top of the highest level of the game. There's not much separating players who make rosters, who don't make rosters. The psychological edge is really important. So to your question, I don't believe those conversations happen very often within the tournament. Instead of like, oh, this is pretty cool, like that crowd was amazing, like how honored are we? Like those types of things could happen. Yeah. But as far as the pressure side of it, I may be wrong, but more often than not super close to game day are those kind of conversations happening as you try to structure your mind.
Okay. So what's your rundown for the rest of the day? How many more of these are you doing?
One more as of now, but what I've learned is as the day goes on, it's like, are you available at 4? Are you available at 7? So we'll see, but one for now.
Okay. And so this way we get to keep an eye on your socials and make sure that all of the network affiliates that have you on their morning shows know what they're getting into. Yeah, putting up with our chaos to lead off, then she's pretty much ready for anything. Kacey D, as always, it's great to catch up with you. May every live shot and connection be well, and may Owen continue to sleep and you bribe him appropriately so he's not bugging you when you do all these live shots. It's always great to see you, my friend. We'll see you soon.
Thanks. Have a good one.
There she goes, Kacey D. And Kacey D's busting out the denim jersey. See, I love that. I love the denim jersey. I love that thing because, like I said, I had the puffy coat, even though it wasn't like, you know, like the warm weather puffy coat. I had like the denim windbreaker. I had that. Had the jersey. Somewhere in my stacks, I can guarantee you, I have a lot of that line from Adidas in '94. I've got a lot of that stuff from the World Cup in '94. It is stored someplace because there was, in addition to all the U.S. stuff, there was this one piece that I thought was really cool. And it was a sweatshirt, but it wasn't the thick sweatshirt material. It was a garnet sweatshirt, hooded, and it was thin material, but it had each of the flags on the trim of the hood and then down the sleeves. It's almost like like a bar down each sleeve. It had each of the contributing nations in the World Cup in that particular piece of clothing. I'm like, yeah, I've got to get that. And so, the 94 stuff, I bought it originally, and I probably still have it buried someplace in my stacks in my storage locker. So that's me and retro. Yeah, we always get along. And then the second time around, since you probably got rid of it after the first time, they're charging you like 98% more. It's like double the markup. It is Tuesday Thoughts, and that's our guest, Chad Goebert from Kennesaw State. And for him, it was an opportunity to catch up on us on sports innovation and technology in his class, assistant professor of sport management up at KSU. So hooty you and all yours. And then catching up with Kacey D. So we had to slide Kacey D a little bit this morning because of the stuff that she's doing at 10:20 and beyond. So she's all gassed up and ready to go wearing her U.S. gear as we head into the midweek. So now, since we're getting close to the top of the hour, I don't want to necessarily filibuster anymore, but time for the hydration break. Let's go ahead and hydrate people, because it is one of those days where it's going to be like hot as you know what. So we recommend for all of you partaking the show, however you partake, to properly hydrate. Our hydration break is always brought to us by our friends at local Vine Beer, Wine, and Liquor stores. 2 locations here in the Atlanta area, Johns Creek and in Cumberland, right off of 19 and Cumberland Parkway. And as always, thanks to them for being great partners and new friends with us here in 2026. And so you go into their stores, man, they got a lot of stuff. And they also have a lot of World Cup stuff too. They have the soccer balls and all of the official drinks of said tournament. And they've got a lot of that. And thanks to them a couple weeks ago for putting up with me on a Saturday morning. But local Vine Beer, Wine, and Liquor stores, great friends and partners with us here at SDH. So hydration break, go for it. I need hold music or something to do this. But yeah, hold music is what we need. So good morning, all y'all. And okay, so Abby has questions this morning. And so Abby and Bart is reminding us about the English Premier League champs Arsenal. Yes, it was a busy day for Arsenal with Kai Havertz and with Martinelli scoring, and the end results were split. So Abby has and we'll get into the PKs, and we got highlights coming up here in a bit. So Abby has questions involving the Paraguayan keeper who had his hand in a certain body part, the German player, prior to the interference call that took away the goal. That's going to be up to the ARs and to the man in the middle or the referee just to sit there if they notice that kind of stuff. But at the bottom line is it was a clear pick. It was a clear pick. And so it was made more difficult. I don't think you're necessarily kind of looking at where hands are per se, but it is paying more attention to the pick above the waist than it is where folks are placing their hands as they're getting ready for a swinging in service. So I think that's probably all the stuff leading up to all the ring around the rosy, they're not necessarily paying attention to, but when you have a clear pick, then that's why they make that call. Apparently this morning, according to our friends at Touchline, Ronald Koeman has decided to step down as Netherlands manager. Let me see if we have any other details on that. Touchline came up with that this morning. And it was, let's see. So, Transfer News Live is reporting it, but let's see if they're referring to anybody in particular. Heavy criticism for the negative tactics in the knockout match. And that was one of the things that was visible to those looking from the outside, is that it was not Dutch football. And so Ronald Koeman played 5 at the back. He says if he had to do it again, he'd do it all the same way. When the equalizer is scored, I'm always going to be scolded for the fact that I chose 5 defenders, but you criticize, which is your right. You watch from the sidelines. I'm here with the team, and once again, I do it again, end quote. So you had folks saying that the defeat was Koeman's fault, lost with an identity that isn't the Dutch identity. Everyone around the Dutch national team, according to Koeman, he said that we didn't get enough out of it, and we chose to play this way. And I'm watching the interview because we gave away too much. In 3 matches, you can close your eyes to that and keep going in the same way. But then I think it's up to the coach to make changes, and that everything can be better and different at certain moments. Like, yes, okay, that could very well be. But anyway, of course, beforehand, there are people who can say, we understand this adjustment. And then afterwards, then Koeman responds in kind. He goes, if you agree with it beforehand, then you can't say afterward that it didn't work. There are also people, and then the question goes, all the Netherlands have asked they have to play with 5. Koeman says if you play with 5, you get criticized for it. So yes, but again, Koeman said he honestly didn't give a damn in the interview. So, but yeah, if he had to do it again, he would. Then in the post-match scrums, literally one of the reporters in Monterrey asked if Koeman had handed in his resignation after the exit. Koeman said no. The reporter said, well, then when will you do it? And Koeman kept his cool and just kind of danced around it. So, but you had a lot of folks sitting there and saying that this was Koeman's fault for going 5 at the back. And that was, obviously hindsight being 2020. You now have a moment where Ronald Koeman apparently is going to be resigning, leaving, what have you. Then Koeman was asked about the PKs. Koeman said Virgil van Dijk was going to be the first to take the penalty shot, but at the last moment he told the technical staff he had a sudden discomfort and didn't want to take it. And so Mundo Deportivo this morning, or after the match, checking the time when it was posted. So it was, it was posted, let's see, CEST. I'm trying to do math. So I think it was within the last half hour. Netherlands manager converted 8 out of 9 of his penalties, scoring 56 out of 63. Surpassed Suarez, Ronaldinho, Rivaldo, Stoichkov, Messi. Koeman set a La Liga record, converting 25 consecutive penalties without a miss. Koopmeiners and Weghorst converted. Kluivert, Timber, and Somerville missed. And so that was what you were looking at with penalties. And that was why I wanted to ask Kacey D about penalties and, processes and thoughts and all that kind of stuff when it comes to the idea of taking a penalty. Do you want to? In the Germany match with Julian Nagelsmann, apparently Nagelsmann looked at Goretzka not once but twice to take the 6th one. Goretzka was not interested. It goes to Jonathan Tah, and then you have what happened in the 6th frame with Tah sending it over the bar. Market Deportivo is as too few, but once again, you're going back through. Dutch News is saying that Koeman is going to consider his position from tomorrow, meaning today, after the Netherlands went out on penalties. Morocco 12 shots, 7 to the Dutch, twice as many passes, equalized in injury time. Issa Diop for close range. We'll have that highlight for you in a second. So Koeman, once again, told NOS after the match, I don't regret it. If I could have my time again, I would do the same thing. We chose to play this way because we gave away too much in the previous 3 matches. And it goes into the quotation that I read. Start thinking about his future. Quote, maybe I'll make a decision by tomorrow afternoon. Right now, I'm too disappointed. Tiani Reinders dropped out of midfield to make space for Nathan Ake at left back. Somerville replaced Anya Mallon. The Orange-dominated possession first half created little in the way of attacking in the first half. Verbruggen had 2 fine saves from a corner and a shot by Hakimi. Closest they came to scoring was a long-range drive by Van de Ven. Bunu tipped over the crossbar. De Jong isolated in the midfield. Gakpo, Brabi, and Somerville were barely able to get in the game. We'll look at the stats in a bit. So some folks are reporting that Koeman is going to step aside. Koeman said last night he might have an answer by this afternoon, which would be now-ish in local time. So it appears that Ronald Koeman is looking at his future. And so we'll keep an eye on that. So Touchline is their exclusive is that Koeman has decided to step down, and that is from Touchline in the UK. So Koeman has decided to step down. That came out about an hour and a half ago. So Touchline is saying he's stepping down, and you compare that with Koeman in the post-match comments where he said he might have an answer by tomorrow afternoon. That would be right now-ish in the Netherlands, but we'll see. Still do not know the start time of the Marcelo Bielsa press conference today in Montevideo. We know that it is supposed to happen at some point, but we don't have an answer as to the when. And obviously, we'll keep an eye on that today. And it's the press conference with Bielsa is going to be one of two things. It is going to be one of two things. It is going to be his final press conference, apparently scheduled 6 o'clock local time, the exact same time as a World Cup match. And that's not gaining any favors and gaining any friends. So at the same time as the France-Sweden match, you're going to have the Bielsa press conference. So we'll see what happens there. It's going to be one of two things. It is going to be one of the fastest conversations that he's ever had. Peace out, I'm done. Or it is going to be something that is going to take the length of the match that is going on at the same time. France and Sweden are going on. Bielsa probably might talk through the whole thing. So apparently at 6 o'clock local time, it is going to be the conversation that Marcelo Bielsa is going to have with the assembled media in South America about his future. So we'll see what happens there. President of Paraguay signed a government decree declaring a national holiday on today, celebrating the win. And there's a picture of him with his press agent, and he's signing the contract. And it literally is just like a player signing. He's got the Germany match over his left shoulder. The document, the decree, is on the table in front of him. He has the pen in hand, and he's smiling at the camera with a thumbs up. So the pen is hovering over the document. It's one of these. Hovering over the document, and he signed it. But it's just like every other player signing that we've ever seen. And it is up and running. So that is a bit of the news. Like I said, we got news in Major League Soccer involving Columbus. We've got some Atlanta United stuff to get into. The Korea Republic coach has resigned. And when you were being yelled at when you were coming into the airport concourse by fans that were asking you to do so, not necessarily a surprise that it did, in fact, happen. But let's get you through what happened yesterday so we can get you prepped for today and let you know what else is going on in and around the planet. So we'll start off at the top. And the early match yesterday. And it was one of the matches that went for a while. It went for a while, and you're thinking, okay, everything is going to be we're going to go north of 90 minutes. But then Somerville, not Somerville, Gabriel Martinelli decides that he is going to have the moment that is going to push everything through for Brazil. Here's the call of that late goal from our friend Sami Sadovnik and FDP Radio, Football de Primera. Here is how the match ended. It was 1-1 heading into the 90s, 90+5. You get this moment, courtesy of our friends at FDP.
Viene Brasil con esta, buscan a Endricky, le anticipa bien la pelota, la roba sin embargo Ryan, servicio ahora, pégale Lucas Paquetá de zurda, busca y está. ¡Gol! Camiseta número 22. Estaban casi cocinando la feijoada de la prórroga, pero el último minuto tiene también 60 segundos y este es Brasil. Por eso son pentacampeones del mundo. Por eso tienen 5 estrellas en el escudo de la SDH. Gabriel Martinelli marca el tanto de la victoria. Está ganando Brasil, que se está matriculando en los octavos de final de la Copa del Mundo. Brasil 2, Japón 1.
There you go. Sami Sadovnik on the call. And Brazil gets the win. They move on. We'll go through the bracket when we're done with the highlights. So that was your first game. And you're sitting there thinking, okay, if the rest of the day comes even close to that, then we're in good shape. It did. Match number 2 in Foxborough. And this is one that went north of 90 minutes. You end up with Germany and Paraguay going for a while. Boy, did they go for a while. And so you end up with this one, and we're going to go once again to our friends at FDP. Diego Pesolano. It goes 90. It goes 105. It goes 120. And when you thought in the PKs that Paraguay had it locked down, Manuel Neuer comes up big. Then you go to the 6th, and we mentioned what happened in the 6th. Top of the 6th, Jonathan Tah sends it over the bar. And that's why I wanted to ask Kacey about, logistics and body position and all that kind of stuff. What we're looking at in these moments. Then you go to the bottom of the 6th, and it's a chance for Canale to send Paraguay through. We know what happened. Here's how Diego Pesolano called it once again on FDP.
Va Canale, el central de Lanús, la orden del árbitro, respira Canale, llegó, le pegó, ¡gol! Paraguay por los canales del fútbol, gana Paraguay por los canales del penal, gana Paraguay por los canales del mundial, se va a casa Alemania. El seleccionado, 4 veces campeón del mundo, sucumbió ante la Alemania de Gustavo Alfaro, que hizo los deberes, lo llevó a los penales y Paraguay, el que no era favorito, Paraguay le dice al mundo, adiós Alemania, nosotros seguimos adelante en Estados Unidos en 2026, seguimos adelante en México en 2026, seguimos adelante en Canadá 2026. En definitiva, somos nosotros los que seguimos en el Mundial.
Diego Pesolano, slightly excited. Adios, Alemania. For Germany, it was their first World Cup elimination via a penalty shootout, winning their previous 4. Only their second shootout miss in a major tournament after losing the Euro 50 years ago. And the player that sends you through for Paraguay, in addition to what we saw from Orlando Gil in net, and Orlando Gil has apparently not been paid in 6 months at San Lorenzo. Somebody sign that man up right now, and you know San Lorenzo is probably going to make a payday. So, Canale, by the way, 29 years old, he plays at Lanús. And he only had, coming into this match, a handful of minutes, period, in the national team. And he only had a couple of appearances, a couple of minutes. And honestly, there was, a little bit of thought, would Canale even be a part of the active roster pretty much? He's only had 5 international appearances for Paraguay. The 5th one was yesterday. 5 appearances, 1 goal. But in his time at Lanús, he was able to take Lanús to a title. They win the Copa Sudamericana in 25. They win the Recopa in 26. So at 29 years old, you're sitting there thinking, well, is the guy going to get a shot? He was added to the roster. At center back, he helped Lanús to a title. We mentioned that once again, because you don't have Alderete available to you if you're Gustavo Alfaro, you got to figure out what to do at the back. You bring in Jose Canale for his 5th cap, period. And he gets the clincher in the 6th frame of the shootout. 6th frame. And so you now have someone else who has been added to the stacks of lore when it comes to, Mark Lemke of the Braves. We always talk about Mr. October, talk about, player X, player Y, who they are this time of year, whatever. You now get to add Jose Canale, a 29-year-old center back, and Orlando Gil, a keeper not getting paid for all of this. You had all of that happening. And Gustavo Alfaro, by the way, in his press conference last night, he had some absolute gems. He talked about Canale. He says, because with Alderete, you can't ignore the importance he has within the team. And today Canale played a match as if he had 100 caps with the national team, played against Germany, marking the most difficult forwards on the planet. And then the ones who came on kept getting taller. It seemed like, every replacement was taller. We had to mark them between 2 of us, one in front of the other, with Polito one in front of the other, because what they were trying was tremendous, looking for it every way with all the variants they have. Alfaro did mention, he did mention temperature. He says, because they achieved an epic victory. So one is very happy for all those we love, for all those who helped us, for all those who always supported the national team, for the whole country that is celebrating today. Now, Alfaro did mention it at the national holiday. He said, so let the people enjoy it. Let all of Paraguay enjoy it. As we always say, we can play well, average, or badly. We can make mistakes. We can have successes. We can have 1,000 flaws. But we have a heart that never gives up, and that's what keeps us alive. We were just talking in the locker room. Have humility, have patience, because we're only allowed to enjoy for 2 hours. Because after that, we have to rest, because on Saturday we play again. Tomorrow we travel to Philadelphia. Honestly, didn't even know where we'd have to go because I don't look. I always say football is the present. So they tell me, Coach, you really don't plan anything. For me, nothing else exists. For me, the only thing that exists is the present, and for me, nothing existed after Germany. As I always told you the other day, when we played against Australia, winning the third match is earning credit to play the fourth. And hopefully winning the fourth gives us credit to play the fifth. And hopefully we keep going. What I am clear about is that the heart of these players doesn't give up, because we had in front of us a national team with a lot of history. 4 stars, a team accustomed to playing this kind of stage, the big teams. Spanish journalist just asked me about Spain. I say, when the greats are warming up their engines, you better catch them in the group stage. Because when they warm up their engines and accelerate and march at a firm pace, well, Germany is a giant. So they could have easily have run us over. But we resisted on firm feet, and that's what allowed us to do it. Enjoy it. Keep helping us, because this is a reality we build together. Beyond having differences of opinion, which is valid, I'm a person who values differences of opinion a lot. I'm very stubborn, a stubborn Gallego, because I argue until they show me I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, I change. I don't die with mine. I live with mine. To live is to change, because when one dies, they put you inside a hole and fill you with dirt. So I want to live, and if I have to change to keep living, I'm going to change to keep living. In that sense, that's what I value. I say that dissent makes us grow, and it's very good that it's that way. I want to dedicate it to my family. I was just with them, my wife, my 2 daughters, my granddaughter, my sons-in-law. I have a son-in-law who's French, as I told you the other day. We've already got him hooked. He speaks more Guarani than I do, and I already have him with the jersey on. So if on Saturday it ends up being France, although France still has to play Sweden, he knows who he has to root for. But really, it's about enjoying this. Enjoying it is a tiny space. And then he was asked about response from the players. The only way to make Paraguay grow is to agree. And that doesn't mean you can't criticize. But I've told you 1,000 times, you can't always be in a new beginning. It seems to me Paraguay is very used to immediacy. 20% of first division coaches get to manage 20% of their matches. It's very hard to have a project when you only bet on results. At some point, it traps you because they're permanently changing rosters, and with national teams even more so, because the national team is an expression of what's happening below. When they fire a coach, it hurts me because I put myself in their place. I've been fired, and I know how ungrateful it is, and I know that many times the responsibility isn't all yours. So I'd like Paraguayan football to agree on what it wants. Then there was one other part of this that I wanted to discuss, that Alfaro, and like I said, when Alfaro is on a roll, absolutely he's on a roll. He gets into talking about details. Here was the quote I was looking for. The worst thing is staying in mediocrity and being a neither. And if there's something I can't allow myself against the United States, for me, we were a neither. We were neither. We were neither offensive nor defensive. We were a neither. There's nothing worse than being a neither. Today, I didn't want to be a neither. If I had to do this, fine. Even if I have to do things that maybe aren't what you'd like to do, you have to do them. It's what the match calls for. If you have to put another defender on, I'll put another defender on. Like the other day, if I had to put another defender on, I had to put another defender on. And if today I had to put a forward on, I had to put a forward on because that's what the match was calling for. Why? Because we still don't have that baggage that lets us impose conditions. We still have to dance the music they put on us, and we prepare. Sometimes a cumbia comes on. Sometimes a tango, sometimes a rumba. And there we are. There we go. Today a polka came on. There we keep fighting, trying to interpret dancing badly, but trying to interpret and keep going, nothing more. And that was translated from his press conference last night. So that was some stuff from Gustavo Alfaro after the win. If you have the opportunity, go and see if you can find the press conference. But that was spot on. Spot on. It's always fun when, like I said, when Gustavo Alfaro is lined up and he's revved up and ready to go like that. That's some stuff. Yahoo quoting him saying, "I want all of Paraguay to enjoy this. We may have our defects, but we have a heart that never gives up, and that's what keeps us alive," end quote. So that was Gustavo Alfaro last night. A 29-year-old center back with only in his 5th cap ever. Helped Lanús to 2 titles. sends them into the next round of the round of 16 with a PK in the 6th round. Sudden death PKs. So you get that from Canale yesterday, and they make their way through. Speaking of which, since we played the FTP version, let me see if I can find the other. Let me see if I can find the. Did I load the other? Yeah. Okay. So here's the other version from our friends at Telemundo Deportes and how they called it in Foxborough yesterday.
Marca Canal de Paraguay, está en octavos. Si tapa Neuer, o la vuela, seguimos. Viene Canales. ¡Gol! Paraguay se clasifica. Paraguay se clasifica a los octavos de final de la Copa del Mundo 2026. Paraguay hizo el milagro. Paraguay aguantó hasta el final. Paraguay forzó los penales y Paraguay está clasificado a los octavos de final, eliminando al tetracampeón del mundo, Alemania. Paraguay hace historia. Paraguay espera por Francia, por Suecia.
Es Paraguay que lo ha merecido, porque Paraguay sobrevivió en la segunda jornada.
And that was your call on Telemundo Deportes. So that gets us to the third game. And yeah, that one went long. And it was 1-0 for the longest time. 1-0 for the longest time. And then, as time is running out, it wasn't 1-0 anymore. Once again, it is, what do we have here? Yes, it is from our friends at Telemundo Deportes. And as we have here in this show, when Andres Cantor calls a match, that's the highlights you use. Here's your equalizer.
La primera de Talvi. Aquí vino el área. Centro de Talvi, apareció como 9 el central y veremos cuánto más jugamos a partir de ahora.
So there, it was 1-1. And so I was counting because I didn't count it when I was making the edit, but we had a 9-second hold and a 13-second hold, calling the equalizer from Issa Diop, which gets us into PKs. And it means that Saibati has a chance to slam the door. And here's what he did. Once again, Andres Cantor, he makes the call. You play the highlight.
Ahí va el remate de Saibati, el goleador del equipo. Saibati. Marruecos está del otro lado, eliminando a Países Bajos, y se va a casa.
So there you go. Your 3 games yesterday, 2 go into PKs. 1 goes into sudden death. And now you get into today. Let's get you into the bracket just so you know where folks are going and what they're going to be up against. Paraguay, upper bracket, upper corner. They get the winner of France and Sweden. France. And that one is this afternoon. Remember, simultaneous to the Marcelo Bielsa press conference. So France and Sweden simultaneous in the Meadowlands. Winner of that one gets Paraguay July 4th in Philly at the Link. We were this close to France and Germany in Philly on July 4th. Paraguay goes through. They get the winner of France and Sweden. Canada, with their win at SoFi, go to Houston to take on Morocco. That one is also July 4th. And that is the predecessor of the Paraguay and France or Sweden matchup. So Canada playing in Texas on July 4th against Morocco. So Morocco with the win, they go up against Canada. Those two particular sections, those two mini brackets, they're paired together. So that is July 4th. Then you end up with Brazil with their win over Japan at NRG. They get the winner of Ivory Coast and Norway. That one's being played at Jerry World today. Like I said, we'll get into juice boxes in a bit. Brazil gets the winner of Ivory Coast and Norway. That one is going to be at the Meadowlands on July 5th. 21 minus 5 is 16. So late afternoon, July 5th, Meadowlands, Brazil versus either the Ivory Coast or Norway. That was your results from yesterday. Those three, and we got the 4 teams that have pushed through to the last 16. So your juice boxes today. Ivory Coast and Norway bat and lead off at 1 o'clock. Ivory Coast a plus 260. Norway is a plus 114. Draw is a plus 240, 90-minute draw. This one is in Picks of the Week in the Medio. This is match number 3 of 8. Picks of the Week in the Medio or in the Discord. 5 o'clock, France and Sweden. France is a big favorite at a minus 333. Draws a plus 500. Sweden to win outright is a plus 1,000. Graham Potter had his MD -1, match day -1 press conference yesterday, and here are his thoughts going into the match today.
Yeah, I'm not sure weakness is necessarily a word I would use when describing the French side, to be honest. I think they've got quality all over from the start, off the bench. They can clearly change things if they need to, but we have full respect for the opponent, obviously. For the quality of the individuals they are and the team, what they've achieved. They've won the World Cup, fantastic manager. So we know the exciting challenge that awaits us. We have to play the game of our lives, clearly. And the boys are in a really good place, I think, to be able to do that.
And that is what you get from Graham Potter. Graham Potter, when he plays poker, he keeps a lot of stuff close. He keeps the cards like right here. And he's looking to his left and to his right, trying to figure out if anybody can see how he's holding his cards. He is he's always very, very complimentary to the opponent. Very, very workmanlike when addressing his own club. Doesn't really give you a whole lot to work with, but that's just his way. So that's the mid game. That's game 2 of today, which leads us from 5 o'clock. And for those who will be joining us from the Marcelo Bielsa press conference, when that is over and probably when the match is over with France and Sweden, Mexico and Ecuador at the Azteca. Mexico a plus 129, draws a plus 190. Ecuador to win outright is a plus 300. Sebastian Becasese has been discussing issues that he has had upon arriving for this matchup. Ricardo Escartin Mondragon at Tudene. At his MD -1, complained about the journey to get to Mexico City. 9 hours that the Ecuadorian team made from Columbus, Ohio, expressed his tiredness due to the little time they had to rest in their training camp hotel in Santa Fe. Quote, "We are 3 hours behind schedule. We were supposed to arrive at the hotel at 6, but the players haven't arrived yet. They should be here in 5 minutes. A flight that was supposed to be 3 hours plus the hour and 20 it took to transfer from the airport to the hotel ended up being a 9-hour flight. Excuse us if we look tired." Becasese expressed surprise at the logistics experienced in Mexico, stating that the team's organization for traveling to their games in Philadelphia, New York, and Kansas City was precise. Quote, the previous games were always precise, both in Philadelphia, New York, as well as in Kansas. We've been really been very organized in every detail. Everything has been done exactly as planned. And, well, here it hasn't been the same. And regarding the logistics issues, he said he wasn't angry at the journey, just tired after not having any rest. Quote, I'm not upset, I'm grateful. They caught us tired. We're at the World Cup. That's how it happened. We're focused on having dinner, resting, and going to compete. Mexico and Ecuador will compete at the, quote, the Colossus of Santa Ursula for a ticket that will get them into the round of 16, where the winner gets either England or England or DR Congo next Monday, July 6th. Whoever was copy editing the article for Tuda NA saw DR and decided that it was meant for the Dominican Republic. So the copy editor is not necessarily the biggest sports fan. So England, DR Congo gets the winner of Mexico and Ecuador. And that one is tonight at the Azteca. Let's check ticket prices, shall we? So let's check the Ticketmaster, and this is on StubHub. So if I want 2 tickets, each household limited to 4 tickets a match, 40 tickets total for the comps. So right now, the matchup tonight, 7 o'clock local time. Price is going down a little bit. You can get in, your get-in price, $17.58 each, and you're in the 500s. You're in the 500 section at the Azteca. So there are some tickets that are in the 5s that are $17.58. There are some that are in the 6s that are $17.58 or $1,800. Further down, and there are some just under 2,000, caddy-cornered in the 600s. As you get lower into the bowl, there are some tickets that are $5,500 each, $4,745 each, or in the 4,000 range. I think it would be opposite the boxes on one side. These are box seats basically in the 100 level. Anywhere from 4,000 to 4,700. There's a pair of tickets in the 200s. Where is this one? They are in SP11. So they are in literally the boxes in the 200 level for $62.95 each. SP11 has one listing. They were initially $9,000. They're down to $6,300, and that includes fees. So if you got $12,600 and you want to go to the match tonight, you can sit in SP11. So anywhere from $6,300 back to $1,750 and $1,800. That's what you got at the Estadio Azteca tonight, courtesy of our friends at StubHub. So that's what you're staring at there. But Becasese had a 9-hour journey to get from one place to the other. 9 hours. Traditionally, would take a lot less. But for Sebastian Becasese, it took more. So the 3 matches today, 1 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and 9 o'clock, 1, 5, and 9. And we'll obviously be talking about it tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow's going to be a power hour from 8 to 9. Up early, 8 to 9, power hour only. Because we got to get in the building. And it is a noon kick for DR Congo and England tomorrow. Then, when that match is over, Atlanta Soccer tomorrow night, will be from 6 to 8. You also have Atlanta Soccer tonight, and that one will not be from 6 to 8. So you'll have Atlanta Soccer tonight. Then you'll have it also tomorrow and beyond. But tomorrow here is a power hour in the morning. And then we're heading into the stadium for the matchup with DR Congo and England. Start time tonight. Let me see if I can find it really quickly. It is 10 o'clock tonight, 92.9 The Game, the Odyssey app, 92.9 The Game YouTube channel. And you should have an opportunity to hang out with Jason and all the parties that are in concert with the end of the last match of the night. So it should be in hour number 1, in theory, if it just goes 90 minutes. Then you will have till 10:30. So Jason will be on at the beginning of the end of the 90 minutes. If it goes longer than 90, obviously you'll have it in hour number 2. The 11 o'clock hour and stoppage time, that goes to the 92.9 The Game Facebook page as the three-dimensional experience YouTube channel. So let me recap it, considering I just stumbled over my words. So 929thegame.com, Odyssey app, 929 The Game YouTube channel, Atlanta Soccer tonight, 10 o'clock. And it will be on through the ending of Mexico and Ecuador. So at 11 o'clock, when stoppage time kicks in at 11 o'clock. That's going to be on the 92.9 The Game YouTube channel, not the Facebook page, John, but the YouTube channel. And it will be an opportunity, once again, three-dimensional experience all World Cup long with us in the morning, with Atlanta Soccer tonight on all of the 92.9 The Game YouTube locations and such. And so it will be an opportunity to have a lot of intel and a lot of info as you're making your way through here with the triple header that we have in the knockouts today. And can the knockouts today match the knockouts yesterday? One note that I forgot to mention is in we were talking about Ronald Koeman, who apparently is either going to, according to Touchline out of the UK, or Koeman himself, as he was asked about it after the match last night, is he going to step aside from being in charge of the national team? Same question was posed to Julian Nagelsmann after Germany's loss to Paraguay, and Nagelsmann wasn't having it. He's like, if they want to, and I'm paraphrasing, basically, if they, meaning the DFB, if they want to send me on my way, then they're going to have to do it. So Nagelsmann puts it in the federation's court. Y'all want me gone, y'all got to do it. So you have that with Nagelsmann. Ronald Koeman is possibly stepping aside. Obviously, as the day goes along, we'll know more because of what he said, saying mid-afternoon. Mid-afternoon, I'll have an answer. But is that mid-afternoon in this hemisphere, or is it like right now in this hemisphere, meaning mid-afternoon in the Netherlands? So mid-afternoon Dutch local time or mid-afternoon our time. Keep an eye out on both, and we'll find out what the future is for Ronald Koeman. And we might, I don't think it'll be anything immediate, but I think that we will have something akin to the future of Julian Nagelsmann going forward. But Nagelsmann said, hey, you want to do it? You got to do it. I ain't doing it. So that's where Julian Nagelsmann stands after his matchup yesterday. I'm trying to find my sheet of paper and what I might have forgotten when it comes to, okay, so what have I missed in national team stuff? Got all those. Canale Becasese. Okay. So we'll get into, since we're talking World Cup really quickly, let's get into some of the sound, or let's blow up a bot. We're going to have what to watch, where to watch it, and how to watch it. It's going to be pretty easy, obviously, that it's going to be one particular thing. And thanks to everybody who tried to take care of the earlier bot. Apparently it had been snapped off of Twitch before we had a chance to go in and look at it. But this second one has not had its opportunity to be removed by Twitch yet. Viewer solicitation bot. Okay, so that's done. 23 characters out the door. Report submitted. And you, Reverend Martinet Mix, blah, 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 taken care of. But yeah, Bart mentions Orlando Heel. Whoever gets him, I don't think they're necessarily going to have to pay a big price. They're really not. And it is going to be it's going to be interesting. So we'll find out what the future is. San Lorenzo apparently hadn't paid him in 6 months. But you end up with Enciso, and you end up with Orlando Heel with their moments. Galarza and Matias Galarza and Miguel Almiron. You got the assist and the hockey assist on the goal up on the board. And speaking of Atlanta United, since we're here, there are two things about Atlanta United we have to get into. And I know that I just teased about talking about the M&T, but we can wrap with that. We'll hear from Tim Ream and Gio Reyna in a bit. There is discussion out there about players, and one of the players out there being talked about for Atlanta United is Alan Velasco. And Alan Velasco, once again, being linked, and this comes from Luis Carlos Largo in South America. So Luis Carlos Largo, he's been with the ESPN family of networks since 1997. His report yesterday, Atlanta United has concrete interest in the forward, meaning Velasco, analyzing a move to bring him back to Major League Soccer. Boca no longer considers him non-negotiable and is open to hearing offers. Velasco's 23, started at Independiente, and in 22 went to play in MLS at FC Dallas. Last year returned to Argentina to play for Boca Juniors. Largo is asking the question, will there be a deal in coming weeks? So you go and you find out about Alan Velasco. We're going to go and do the dive on Alan Velasco here. So Alan Velasco, I don't know how many of you guys have been getting them, but I've been getting like texts out the yin-yang for things that I have no interest in. That's continuing. Your player profile on Alan Velasco. We'll do the short version, then we'll go a little bit longer. He's a winger at Boca Juniors, 23, turns 24 in less than a month. When he was, excuse me. Wow, that went down the wrong way. When he was 17, started his career at Independiente. 6 goals in 48 appearances. Goes to FC Dallas, plays 62 matches in 2 seasons, 12 goals, and then he goes to Boca and he scored 3 in 31. So he's represented Argentina U15, U17, 1 goal in 4 appearances. Velasco was called up for the 2019 U17 World Cup in Brazil. At FC Dallas in 22, 26 matches, 6+. He had 6 goals. And he also, let's see, so he had 1 goal in MLS Cup playoffs. So 7 goals, all comps in 22 for FC Dallas. Then he had 6 goals in all comps, which included Leagues Cup in 23. Only played 8 matches with FCD in 24 and had 2 goals in that time. So 15 goals in 72 matches, all comps at FC Dallas. With Boca in 25, he only had the 1 goal in 31 appearances. So that's where Alan Velasco is right now as an entity. So if you look at what Alan Velasco does, for those of you that might wonder what Alan Velasco does and where he does it. He's listed as a left winger. Majority of his matches have been on the left wing. Contract at Boca Juniors expires the end of the calendar year in 28. So there's still a little bit of work. Still a little bit of work left on the contract. He has played on either side, and he's also been an attacking midfielder. He has not played striker in any match in his career. He has not been positioned at striker. He has always been either left wing, right wing, or attacking mid. Dominantly, left wing has been his main position. Market value according to Transfermarkt. So he's a right-footed shot, basically most of his time on the left wing. So he likes to come in and set up his right foot being a left winger. Current market value is at 2.8 million euro. So it's 2.8 million euro is his current market value. Dallas picked him up for 4, it looks like. So that was so transfer fees total, actually, sorry, 9.6. So total and transfer fees, 9.6 from Boca Juniors paid 9.6 million euro to Dallas to get Velasco. Dallas paid 6.4 to get him from Independiente. So that's where Alan Velasco is with his value and such, with his transfer numbers, the fees themselves, and what teams paid for him at the time. So Boca paid 9.6, FCD paid 6.4, and this is in euro. So Boca paid, and they have not been getting their investment, and so do not be surprised if anyone who is interested in Alan Velasco gets him at a cut rate deal to navigate what's there with Alan Velasco. So actually, I take it back. So dominantly left winger, 85 matches he has played in his career. Let's see, 181 matches. 181 matches in his career. He's played left wing 85 of them, attacking midfielder 38, right wing 26. So of his 181 matches in his career, 149 of them have either been left wing attacking midfielder or right wing. He has played in the midfield 7 matches of 181. And I take it back. He played 5 matches as center forward in his entire career of 181 matches, and he scored 1 goal. But most of Alan Velasco's time, left wing, attacking mid, right wing. He's been up top. He's been a center forward for 5 matches out of 181 in his career, only has 1 goal. Most of his time, left wing, right-footed shot, 14 plus 15, left winger. So that is the Alan Velasco in a nutshell. Right now he is, like I said, right now he is at Boca. And this season in 4 separate competitions, 2 goals in 9 matches in the 2026 calendar year. Libertadores, playoff Apertura, the Apertura, and the Copa Argentina. So that's your Alan Velasco stuff. But keep an eye out on news from Luis Carlos Largo at Largo ESPN. So keeping an eye on that is what you're staring at with Alan Velasco and Atlanta United. Also, keep an eye on Junior Alonso and Paulo Diaz. Those 2 names have already been put out there into the ether. But now it's now Paulo Diaz from River Plate, Junior Alonso, and Alan Velasco. So keep an eye on those 3. Yesterday, Botafogo had their ban lifted, specifically attached to Atlanta United. And this might take a minute. But I think that it is important when it comes to, if I could spell Botafogo, I think we'd be doing okay. So yesterday, Botafogo publicly said, and of course it happened right after we went off the air, like noon yesterday, transfer ban regarding the case FDD-27222 involving Atlanta United, officially suspended by FIFA. Remaining cases remain under review. Club awaits the outcome. Botafogo, in the context of the judicial recovery of which it is a part as an SAF, reiterates it will fully comply with the agreements that will be entered into the creditor's plan, always in alignment with the determinations of Brazilian justice. It's an important acknowledgement of the compatibility between the international regulatory system of football and the particularities of the Brazilian legal framework. Botafogo went on to thank FIFA for their decision. And there are 5 others that are in play. And also it looks like Nelson Palacio is in advanced negotiations. So Nelson Palacio is in advanced negotiations with Toronto as a target of Botafogo. Palacio from RSL in advanced negotiations to join Toronto FC, according to Cesar Luis Merlo. Deal is worth 1.2 plus performance-based bonuses. RSL would also be entitled to a percentage of a sell-on by Toronto. So keep an eye on Nelson Palacio going from RSL to Toronto. Last season on loan at Zurich, 32 as a starter, 1 assist on the year. So Botafogo and Botafogo adjacent players are making moves, and apparently the transfer ban for Botafogo, specifically attached to the Thiago Almada transfer, is off the board. But then this morning, Botafogo had 5 penalties on Monday. They got a new one this morning. Transfer ban was lifted. Now it's for a debt to Junior Barranquilla for the purchase of Jordan Barrera. Barrera arrived in mid-2025, deal worth $4 million. Contract runs through the end of 29. Monday, the FIFA lifted the punishment related to the debt of signing of Thiago Almada. And mainly it was because of the judicial recovery regime of Botafogo and their ownership group. All other cases under review, because it is in judicial reorganization, Botafogo cannot settle its debts due to a court order. The expectation is that the penalties will be lifted. Botafogo's 5 that are currently in play: debt to Ludogorets on Rowan Cruz, NYCFC on Santi Rodriguez, Zenit because of Artur, Nacional of Uruguay because of Lucas Villalba, and a sanction for non-payment of fines. So they get the Thiago Almada one knocked off the board, and then they end up with another one in its place to Junior Barranquilla because of Junior Barrera. So let me see if there's any other math that needs to be paid attention to here. We mentioned the Palacio deal and the 6th one that has been added. Yes, translated into English. Well, no, it wasn't. It's still in Portuguese. There, come on. There we go. So, once again, because of the judicial reorganization plan by Botafogo, the other cases are still under analysis. As of yesterday, Globo announced Botafogo still owes Atlanta United $21 million. Botafogo is negotiating with MLS because, remember, it's still part of the collective in the negotiation. And you're having the parent entity here in MLS to settle the debt. And we mentioned Botafogo's statement that we read about it. So, bottom line is the transfer ban is lifted on Botafogo, at least where Almada was concerned. They still owe the $21 million. Botafogo understands and recognizes that they still owe the $21 million. Frankly, I'm to the point to where just give me players. Botafogo still owes $21 million. They recognize this. FIFA looked at the recovery plan put forth, having to do with their troubled economics, signed off on pulling the ban away on the Thiago Almada transfer only, which left 5 on the board, and then they added a 6th one again this morning with Junior Barranquilla. So Botafogo is still in trouble. They recognize that they still owe $21 million. FIFA gets all of that, pulled away that transfer ban, but they got back up to 6 as of about 9 o'clock this morning. So that's the Botafogoian update. Botafogoian update. Columbus Crew had an outbound and an inbound. Diego Rossi heading to Monterrey. Lautaro Giacone inbound, according to Cesar Luis Merlo. And so Giacone, get the rundown of his numbers here quickly. So let me see. A preliminary agreement for Nelson Palacio. We mentioned that. So now we're looking at Cesar Luis Merlo's account. Franco Escobar is returning to Newell's. One of his priorities, everything agreed for an 18-month contract after his stint at Peñarol. Sebastian Cordova is heading to Pumas. Iker Muniain's arrival at San Lorenzo is on hold, lacks the license to coach in the first division. Let's see. Independiente del Valle announcing the arrival of Hugo Quintana. So Columbus Crew announcing the arrival of Lautaro Giacone. Argentinos Juniors loaned him out for a year with an option to buy. So he's a midfielder from Argentina, heading from Argentinos Juniors to Crew after Crew sent Diego Rossi to Monterrey. So those are your transactions to kind of keep an eye on here. Looking at stuff this morning. So there's a lot of little things to get into and a lot of little elements to drift back into. Salma Paraguayo leaving Barcelona Femenine, not renewing her contract, departing on a free after 4 years. Won 15 titles at Barca, 3 Champions Leagues, 4 league titles. Arsenal, Manchester United, and Lyon are interested. LAFC sold Grasshopper Zurich to Bridge Football Group. Their majority stake. Purchased them in 2024 as a European platform. Fans were never happy about it, so it was sold to Bridge Football Group, who now owns 96.7% of the program. More than 10 groups expressed interest during the sale process. So LAFC is in the selling business. Salma Paraguayo is looking for a new home. And if you also missed it, coming up on soccerdownhere.net, Elias Baez sits down with Jason, SDH, and Vanessa Angel to find out about his season and his journey and what it's like to live in the World Cup here in Atlanta. We mentioned Sam Kerr. We mentioned Robert Lewandowski. USMNT ownership viewership keeps climbing. 19.5 million viewers, second most watched English language men's World Cup telecast in history. Only trailing June 21 when USA and Paraguay topped 18 million. Wonder what the number is going to be like at Santa Clara. So that is going to be that's going to be interesting as well. And so the Nagelsmann quote, basically, after the Paraguay loss, I'm not someone who runs away. I'm available if that's what the DFB wants. If they don't want me, they need to tell me. So keep an eye on Nagelsmann, keep an eye on Koeman, keep an eye on Bielsa. And as we discussed yesterday, head coach Yong Myung Bo resigned from Korea Republic. Jordan's head coach Jamal Salami pointed to the gap that matters. 20 of Morocco's 26-player squad play in Europe, 15 in the top 5 leagues. Jordan have 1 player in Europe. So that was part of the discussion that's going on involving the World Cup. All right, so I mentioned USMNT. They're getting ready for the matchup against Bosnia and Herzegovina. Tim Ream was in front of the microphones in Irvine, California. Here are his early thoughts getting ready for Bosnia and Herzegovina, courtesy of our friends at U.S. Soccer and Veritone.
Listen, we know they're a strong team, a physical team. They've obviously qualified and made it through the group stages for a reason. So it's not a fluke that they've gone through the playoffs and knocked Italy out and made it through to the World Cup. So we'll have to pay attention in all aspects and all moments of the game. Set pieces will probably play a big part, but listen, at the end of the day, we have to worry about and take care of ourselves and do what we have to do to win the game and make it through.
Tim Ream, concerned about set pieces. The knowledge of set pieces is there in the room. They know it could be troublesome for them against Bosnia and Herzegovina. Then Gio Reyna steps in front of the microphones, and it was an opportunity for Gio to let everybody know what's on his mind, getting ready for the same matchup with Bosnia and Herzegovina.
We know we're going to have to be very, very difficult team to play against. Very strong defensively. Very, very good in set pieces, but they also have quality going forward. A lot of good players that play on really good teams in Europe. So, we know it's not going to be easy. We're going to keep reviewing them, keep studying some film, and then, we'll be ready to go.
Study some film, get ready to go. He knows it's not going to be an easy task. All right. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. That's brought to us by our friends at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Link is big for you, big for us, big for them. Because you can add more streaming services and more matches to your dossier that you already have. A lot of the A and B divisions in leagues in South America, Liga 1 Max Pro out of Peru. You get TVV out of Venezuela. If you want, it's an add-on. But if you have a cable system here in this footprint and you have the Spanish-speaking package, you get it. You didn't get that from me. Also, you end up with CDO Plus out of Chile, TSA out of Argentina. You get Copa Argentina with TSA, plus their coverage of the World Cup. You also end up with all the BNs, and I mean all the BNs, because then you get Libertadores, you get Sudamericana, you get all of their European action, you get stuff with CAF, AFCON, all the tournaments, you get that Middle East and North Africa action in the World's game on all the BNs. And you can get that at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. So today, Big FOX has all of the World Cup matches, 1, 5, and 9. Telemundo has them all. Fox ONE has them all. Peacock has them all. So pick your poison, and you can watch on Big FOX, Fox ONE, Telemundo, or Peacock, 1, 5, and 9 today. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Who might be going where? Who's doing what? And to what extent? I'm going to find out. The new round of stuff. Let's see if the gossip, rumor, and innuendo has made it in this morning. If everybody's happy where they are, or if they're ready to be rumored to move on to go to other places. Apparently, Michael Olise has asked for a meeting about his future amid interest from a lot of clubs in Europe who've been ringing Bayern Munich up. Villa set their transfer value for Morgan Rogers at a record fee in Britain. Olise's asked for a meeting, according to AS, amid interest from Real Madrid, PSG, and the Premier League. He's aware of the attention, wants to address his future after the World Cup, wants to know what Bayern Munich has in mind for him and how they value him. Otherwise, he might look for a new challenge. Villa value any transfer for Morgan Rogers at £130 million, more than the Elliot Anderson deal by 10%. Amid interest from Arsenal and Chelsea, according to the Telegraph. Middlesbrough would get $26 million from the move if that valuation's met when they sold him back in 2024 to Villa Park. It would also be the new British transfer record. I feel like Tom Carnegie. New track record. Teo Fabi. Morgan Rogers, £130 million. Look at him going to turn 2. Spurs are confident they'll complete the signing of Sandro Tonali despite competition from Arsenal and Manchester City, according to TalkSport. Green light to join Spurs. Broad terms with the club and player in place. Talks continuing. De Zerbi has been a key factor in attracting Tonali to Spurs. Growing list of unsettled players in Newcastle's camp this summer. The four-letter paper. Update on Arsenal's search for a midfielder. Bournemouth rejecting the club's approach for Alex Scott. They want to make another offer for Bruno Guimaraes, seeing their opening bid rejected. Four-letter paper also mentions Arsenal's interest in Tonali and working on Mateus Fernandes from West Ham, Lille's Ayoub Bouati. They've been discussed. United and Spurs, the front runners for Fernandes so far. Medical for Germany left back Nathaniel Brown's move from Eintracht Frankfurt to Bayern Munich is scheduled for this week, according to our friends at Sky Germany. Brown's going to sign a contract, runs through 31, in a move that will be worth an initial €50 million with an additional 5 in add-ons. Nuremberg is going to get at least €4 million from Eintracht after the deductions. The medical in Germany, if they stay in the World Cup, obviously the day may switch. Knocked out by Paraguay in a penalty shootout, so the timeline might improve. ESPN, Barcelona made an informal inquiry about Harry Kane. Approach was dismissed with him focused fully on the World Cup. Priority remains signing a new contract at Bayern. Barca were ready to explore whether a deal could be possible, got no encouragement from Kane's reps. PSG preparing to close a deal for RB Leipzig's John Diomande. Deal with a transfer fee of around €100 million on the cards with bonus add-ons possibly. Leipzig ready to accept. Liverpool also in the race. Real Madrid have showed interest and are monitoring the situation. Ajax in talks with Barcelona over the loan signing of Marc-Andre ter Stegen. Negotiations primarily focused on the breakdown of his salary. Ajax submitting their first official proposal yesterday. Chelsea exploring a deal for Granit Xhaka. We mentioned that yesterday. Juve would only be allowed to sign Emi Martinez if Villa lowered their demands, and Atalanta's Marco Carnesecchi seems like an impossible dream in quotation marks. Spurs' Guillermo Vicario and Napoli's Vanja Milinkovic-Savic are also more feasible, according to La Gazzetta. Foot Mercato, PSG and Juve very close to reaching an agreement for Randall Colomawani to join on loan with an obligation for a permanent deal at €40 million. Juve started the discussion with Genoa on a move for striker Jeff Ekator in a deal that would be worth €15 million that could include players such as David Puxa and Juan Cabal. It's from Gazzetta dello Sport. Four-letter paper, Rico Lewis, Nathan Ake, Nico Gonzalez, Ruben Dias, and Savinho all could leave now with Enzo Maresca in charge. Nicola Shira, Atleti, in talks with Sporting to try to sign Morten Hjulmand after an offer was made that would run through 2031. Al-Ahly midfielder Frank Kacey has been offered to Juve and Roma, although there aren't any ongoing talks at the moment. That's from Nicola Shira. Team Talk, Como have emerged as front runners to sign Trevor Chalobah, but their opening offer of €27 million falls below the Blues' €40 million valuation. Como also, according to Sky Sports Italia, the front runners to sign Catanzaro attacking midfielder Mattia Liberati, but Ruben Amorim wants to bring him back to AC Milan. Leeds have completed all the formalities to sign Harry Wilson as a free agent on a 4-year deal. That's from Fabrizio Romano. Marca says Valencia are focusing on Lille's Thomas Meunier as they look to sign a right back. Team Talk, Brighton pushing to sign Spurs' Luka Vuskovic and Atalanta's Honest Ahonor as they want to strengthen their center back position, although they're closing in on the deal for Pascal Struijk from Leeds United. Shira again, Napoli have turned down offers from Spurs, Bournemouth, Como, and Atalanta for Antonio Vergara. Team Talk, Everton struck the deal, £25 million with Middlesbrough to sign Hayden Hackney. Diego Rossi's deal with Monterrey was $8 million. Marc-Andre ter Stegen has opened the door to joining Ajax. Once again, negotiations are well underway. So that is the rundown of all of the things that we have in the world with all the transfers and all the stuff. And so that is, I'm trying to see if there's anything else that might have been missed when it comes to any and all of the things. It is Auxerre reaching an agreement in principle to sign Christ Makoso from Luton. £2 million, including add-ons. Congolese defender had a loan spell at Oxford last season, is now going to be heading to France. Also with, let's see, who else is on the transfer list here? So Spurs are confirming Anthony Kinski signed a new contract. That's from our buddy Ben Jacobs. Then it is Morocco. So Morocco, the first African nation to advance to the knockout stage in 2 separate World Cups. Trying to see what else is on the board this morning. And like I said, bear with me here. I'm trying to figure out what we got. Everton, once again, in advanced talks to sign. So, of course, I hit a button and it goes flying away. So, Tyreek George, Everton, trying to get him from Chelsea, and advanced talks are there with Everton. And Atleti confirmed Alejandro Grimaldo has joined from Leverkusen on a 4-year deal. So we mentioned Franco Escobar. PSG viewing Bradley Barcola as not for sale, according to David Ornstein, regardless of arrivals and the reluctance to sign a new deal. PSG value him much higher than the $116 that Manchester City spent on Anderson, Ramos, and Lee. Randall Colomawani exit on Anderson. Ramos, Lee, and Colomawani exits, creating a squad and financial space. And Manchester United's midfield recruitment plans unaffected by the injury to Manuel Ugarte. Fernandes is the immediate priority. Others also being considered may impact the signing of a left-sided forward, though, and the likelihood that Marcus Rashford is going to stay. So I think, as I'm sitting here and scanning quickly, I think, yeah, and officially Messi and friends have sold Benja Cremaschi to Parma. That will free up the money in your coffers because that gets added to your Garber bucks. So in that regard, it's looking like it's going to be easier and a little bit more flexible for Messi and friends to sign Casemiro as a TAM player because of the resources that you get from the sale of Cremaschi to Parma. Figured that was going to be the dynamic, but now it looks like it is going to, in fact, be that space. All right. Once again tonight, 10 to midnight, Atlanta soccer tonight. We're going to wrap with Atlanta soccer tonight, yesterday. And it has to do with hydration breaks. So tonight, 10 o'clock, Atlanta soccer tonight starts 92.9 The Game, FM, YouTube channel, Odyssey app. 11 o'clock, stoppage time, 92.9 The Game, YouTube channel. So the three-dimensional experience continues here in Match Day 18. Last night, so this is your Atlanta Soccer Tonight highlight that we run on these daily bases. So it has to do with the hydration break, and Jason finding some statistics and asking with the hydration breaks, what you think? So here's Atlanta Soccer Tonight from last night, and here's Jason discussing one British paper, at least for the moment, one British paper who doesn't like what they're seeing in this tournament so far. We just don't like it. If Hugo Broos was a paper, they'd be the Times of London. So here's Jason from AST from last night.
On a day where the FIFA Technical Study Group says that the game is faster at this tournament and the flow of the game is better, it's improved, and players are happy about it, especially when they're playing in the heat. They're happy about the way these games are going. What does the Times in London do? They write an article talking about the momentum of matches and it being a problem because of the hydration breaks. Of course they did. I get that some people don't like the hydration breaks. I totally understand it. It's different. It's not old school. I understand it. But we're really reaching in some of these things. And we're talking about 32% of group stage games had an above average shift in momentum after the first half hydration break, and a 26% shift in momentum after the second half hydration break. Okay. Let me ask you a question. Have you enjoyed this World Cup? I think your answer would almost from everybody be yes. Have you enjoyed the level of play in this World Cup? I think almost unanimously yes. Have the games had more intensity in this World Cup? Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to argue they haven't. So are the hydration breaks affecting that? Would it have been even better if you didn't have the hydration breaks? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Or has this been one of the most enjoyable World Cups with the most intensity, the most end-to-end action, the most late goals in moments, these wild emotion swings in games that you enjoy as a fan, right? Yeah? We were talking about this in the Austria-Algeria game, weren't we? Talking about it in games today. Why are we still complaining? And why are we not giving the hydration breaks any credit for any of the things that we're enjoying? I know it's different. I know purists. I get it. I understand that. But is the game, is the actual flow, are you enjoying what you're seeing? I don't think there's many people who would say no. I'm sorry. So can figure out the format and the flow of it and all that. But if it's just about a commercial being inserted in it, even Fox has learned from that, by the way. They're not doing that the same way anymore. They're figuring it out. They improved. I'd rather not have the commercial break, period. I'd rather use it to tell a story. I mean, I am an analyst on broadcast, so I would enjoy to have that time. and be able to break stuff down. But if that's your complaint and not that the games are better because of the break, because I think the evidence shows that they are, I just don't know what to tell you. The Times in London, I'm really not surprised that this headline is coming from you on the same day that the FIFA Technical Study Group talks about how the flow of the game has improved and players are enjoying it.
Atlanta Soccer tonight, 10 to midnight, 92.9 The Game, 92.9thegame.com, Odyssey app, YouTube channel, 11 o'clock stoppage time, and that gets onto the 92.9 The Game YouTube channel exclusively, but the three-dimensional experience here, match day 18, when it comes to the World Cup. I think that's a show. So, thanks to Kennesaw State University, thanks to Chad Goebert for dropping by and making me want to have like all the statistics that they now have online, or that they're talking about in class, and then where I can find a place to do it, find a place to have them so I can talk about them online. So that was cool. Kacey D wearing her retro gear, which was also cool. And then all of the stuff that gets us here into the day, all of our juice boxes, all of the things. And let me really quickly check and see if the juice boxes have shifted any before we get out of here. Mexico at a plus 129 late. France at a minus 333 late. Ivory Coast is a plus 260. No, they have not shifted in the 2 hours of the show. So that's the rundown. So tomorrow morning, Power Hour 8 to 9, because of the noontime kick downtown. So 8 to 9, Power Hour, highlights, posts, previews, stuff. Then we're out the door at 9 o'clock because we got to go downtown. Once again, reminder, Discord has week 3 of the Medio up. 2 matches are down, 6 remain, plus the tiebreaker. So if you are in the Medio, it is week 3 of the Medio in the Discord for picks of the week. So that's there as well. Once again, thanks to Kennesaw State. Thanks to our friend Darius Goodman for helping us out with all the expert opinions that we're getting here in the tournament. Thanks to KCD. We know where she be. And thanks to all of y'all for dropping by, as you always do when it comes to anything and everything going on. When it comes to this tournament, the beautiful game, etc., etc., etc. So we will see you out there in the communities. We'll see you out there in the soccer. And we'll be with you for Atlanta Soccer tonight at 92.9 The Game, starting at 10 o'clock. So for everybody here at SDH, to all of you there, thanks to Bart, thanks to Abby. Screw all of you stupid bots that want to come in here. Most of them that I could eliminate on a daily basis. And thanks to everybody that's been in here for everything going on here in this environment. Mucho plati, I'll play it safe. Since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do one thing. I get to do this. We'll catch up with you again 8 o'clock tomorrow morning for a Power Hour, because it is a match day in the A. Knockouts. England and DR Congo. We'll find out what they have to say later this afternoon. We'll have it for you tonight. Mucho plati, I'll play it safe. Since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this.